Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. Today, you'll get to know us, your hosts, and hear why we started this podcast. We're sharing real stories, the challenges we faced, and even a few communications tips you can use today. Whether you struggle to speak up in meetings or just want to express yourself more clearly at work, this show is for you.
For now, we would love your support. Follow or subscribe, and if you like what you hear today, leave us a review.
Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real-life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together. Hi, and welcome, everyone. We're so excited you're here today. This podcast is all about helping working women like you become stronger communicators, whether it's speaking up in meetings, navigating tough conversations, or just feeling heard. Also, men, not just women.
I mean, the focus is on women.
The focus is definitely on women, but men are welcome into this space as well.
For sure. Men are definitely welcome as well. We are your hosts. I'm Elizabeth, and Rose May is here with us today. And we created this show because we know how important and how hard communication can be for women in the workplace. And we want to help you thrive. Today, we're going to ask each other questions, and you'll learn more about our stories, why we started this podcast, and even give you a couple of tips you can take into work tomorrow.
Cool.
So,
this is going to be great, guys. It's going to be great.
This is going to be fun. So, Rose, what inspired you to start this podcast?
So, for me, in my mind, I like to say that this podcast has been a work in progress over the last 3 years. I've honestly been thinking about it, and it's come to my mind over and over and over again. Different topics and different forms, but it just has evolved over time. But I knew that it was something that I definitely wanted to do and definitely wanted to start. I felt like there was a way to reach a broader audience with all of the things that I feel like I have learned over the last, I don't know, 40 something years of my life, but also just being able to connect with people in a different way. So I don't know that there's one specific answer. I will say this though, if you get onto our Instagram, communication skills for working women.
For women.
For women. Just kidding. Communication skills for women. Or if you get onto my Instagram, the.melanin.muse, I share a couple of those like just situations that I've had in the past that have helped to contribute to this podcast and this experience in the podcast. So yeah, not real concise answer, but how about you?
So, to actually do it, you did. I have in my mind this like memory that I was in my garage doing something. Sean was out there at the same time. Sean's my husband. It was like just a function of the day, something. And I got a message from you, whether you called me or you texted me and you said, let's do a podcast. And I was like, yes. It was not a hesitation at all. And we've talked about doing different things over the years. Oh, maybe we should like we've known each other since we were 18 years old.
Yes.
We're not 18 anymore.
Thank goodness.
We met each other as freshmen in college and just became good friends right away.
Well, I have to tell the story because I feel like this is very indicative of our personalities. We were in a class and the teacher was teaching some whacked out stuff, very misogynistic. That's what I remember. That is my memory. It was very misogynistic. And I walked out of that class. I was like, I don't know what the hell just happened. And then I'm just walking, minding my own business. And then you came up to me and you asked, what do you think about that class? And I just remember being like, oh, like the look on your face. I was like, I'm going to tell you exactly what I thought about that class. And then we were just friends.
And Rosemary would be minding her own business because that's her MO in life.
Exactly.
Mind your own business.
It is. It is for real.
So, I had done that facilitation course. You'd been doing some facilitation training. We'd been talking about doing coaching and therapy,
Yeah.
possibly together in some type of office. So we'd been like talking very loosely about doing stuff. I
Yeah.
had actually been considering doing a podcast. I had two different ideas pretty deeply formulated over the last 5 years and just hadn't done it. And it was just the perfect, I was in the middle of a different pursuit actually, and was needing to adjust as you do when you're an entrepreneur. And
Hmm.
this came to be. All right. So, what's your professional background and how has communication played a role in your journey?
Professionally, so I did my undergrad psychology. I got a bachelor's in psychology, and then went almost immediately into a master of social work, thinking that I would just do therapy my whole life. And that's kind of how it started out. And then I started having kids, and we moved overseas for my husband's job, and just started living overseas. So the last 15 or so years have been we've lived overseas in different environments. My husband works for the State Department. So, just from in that journey, I found that my options for work were very limited. I could work at the U.S. Embassy where my husband was working, but that wasn't really my jam. So I started looking into other things that were a little bit more conducive to my lifestyle, the no kind of nomadic lifestyle that we have. Also keeping in mind that like we don't have work agreements with every country as diplomats, so that made things a little bit more challenging. Started looking into different programs and found that I could get a master's in special education and with an emphasis in applied behavior analysis. And just using that skill overseas, it would be much more transferable than therapy. Now, mind you, like I said, this was like 15 years ago. It's so much. The technology has evolved so much, and we've learned so many things from COVID and from the pandemic, and we've adapted in so many ways. But at the time, it was very limiting. So, master's in special education, and then I started a PhD program about 5 years ago. And the way that communication has played a role in my journey, oh my gosh. I mean, when you're living in different countries that don't even speak the same language, I think number one, you realize that there is no way to really express yourself except in your own language. There's no way to express what's on your heart unless you become immersed in the language. And I guess language has really become important to me. The use of language, how we use language, how it impacts our emotional well-being, how it impacts us psychologically and culturally and societally. So communication, just from having to learn how to like relearn how to communicate in different places around the world, to learning how to navigate interactions with people from different places around the world, to learning how to be in a setting like the US Embassy. I did have a job for a little while, a couple of years at the US Embassy, and even just learning the vernacular there and learning how to communicate there has always been it's just always played a role in my life. Also, when you're a therapist, I mean, you're communicating daily, but you're also recognizing and taking in and processing the way that others make sense of their world through communication. So I would say that communication is a very big part of my life, especially again, thinking that I was going into applied behavior analysis, which is primarily used with uh, uh, students, or at the time it was students who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And so even thinking about maybe some of the limitations that those have with communication, like that's kind of the specialty, that's where it comes in. And so yeah, it has always been a place in my life, like a very big role in my journey in the last 15 years or so. How about you?
I have a degree in organizational communications and a facilitation certification from Georgetown. My degree is from BYU, Idaho, and the certification's Georgetown. But honestly, most of my communication skills have been developed in my day-to-day moments of real life. I've spent the last 20 plus years at home raising my kids. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area. We're in Maryland, and we've stayed put that whole time. We were in two different homes, but in that same area. And so I haven't followed that traditional career path, and I've been communicating in what I feel are high stakes and meaningful ways every day. So whether I was advocating for my kids at school or navigating healthcare conversations, I also taught piano. I worked briefly as an executive assistant, and I often served on community committees or different boards. And I have had a lot of experience of leading within my church community. And with all of that, I've had to communicate with clarity and empathy and confidence across all of these different spaces. And these things have taught me that communication isn't about a title or even necessarily a job description, but it's about clarity. It's about how you show up, how you connect with people, how you want to move through the world. And I really feel like some of these, people call them soft skills or invisible skills, this ability to communicate, it's actually some of the most powerful skills we can develop.
I agree with that. I agree. Underrated.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. And that in this podcast, we are focusing on working women because we identify through coming into professional environments and being in professional environments that there is a different dynamic for women in those areas. And we also realize that communication is something that everyone has to do in all areas of their life. So Rose, what's a challenge you've personally faced in communicating at work, and how did you overcome it?
That is a really good question. I would say that a challenge that so here's my challenge in general. This is a personality trait for me. I can make really quick decisions in high stakes situations. And oftentimes when I run into maybe some confrontational situations or situations that are very uncomfortable or just difficult communication situations, again, going back to my personality, I can determine very quickly whether or not it's going to benefit me in the long run to communicate what it is that I'm feeling or I'm thinking or just where I'm at, or even to over explain a situation or to dive deeper into it. I can do that really, really quickly. The downside of that is that I have a hard time doing that at work. It is, and I can't even tell you why, but that is really difficult for me. It takes a little bit longer for me to make those quick decisions, to really feel a situation out at work. And I think that one of the ways that I have learned to kind of overcome that is to consistently stay focused on my values. When I can focus on my values, I don't necessarily want to say that that kicks in, but it's just easier to have a conversation when I'm focused on why I'm there, what's important to me, what I want to get out of this conversation, and even just being able to say, this is at the end of the day, in this conversation, in this interaction, I want to have said that I led from a very values oriented perspective. So that's what's helped me. I don't know that it would work for everybody else, but that is a challenge for me because it's so different. At home in my personal life, one way, then I get to work and I'm like, why am I thinking about this so much? I don't even think like I don't think this much in my personal life. But I'm really like focused on this. So just focusing on my values has been really, really helpful for me. I don't know. What's been that way for you?
So a challenge that I have faced that I would say in communicating like in work, or for me, I would say in my church leadership and actually in some of these community boards and committees I've been on, I just didn't know how to show up in the room. I remember vividly standing outside of a meeting that I was supposed to go into, and I was pacing and I was like, do I just go in? Do they open the door? Are they not ready for me? I didn't know. And how do I like, what do I do when I'm there? I just didn't know. And I did the same thing like in community meetings. Like it wasn't, I would be like, how do I enter this room? And so I just would second guess myself and constantly like try to figure out like how to show up without being too much. That's a message I've been given a lot in my life. Like you're just too much. And So navigating that, like, how do I be here and not be too much? Um,
Mm.
but I also have this just kind of mantra that I have in my life that's try, fail, and adjust.
Yeah.
And so I've done a lot of trying and a
Yeah.
lot of failing and a lot of
Yeah.
adjusting. And I know some people would, the definition of failing, it's not a
Hmm.
failure if you've learned from it and things like that. But, it didn't go as I wanted. That's
Yeah.
always a fail type thing. But then you
Yeah.
adjust. And so over time, I've gotten more comfortable going into a room and having clarity around what I'm doing, knowing why I'm there. So that would be my
Yeah.
challenge and how I've overcome it.
I think that's a podcast episode, this idea of failure.
Yeah.
I feel like I do get a lot of motivation from sometimes people saying nothing is a failure, but also I'm like, no, I failed at this. I
Right.
failed at communicating. It was bad. And yes, I
Yes.
did learn something. And
Right.
again, I don't think that we have to have our thinking doesn't need to be in this kind of binary form, but yes, I failed this. I royally like screwed it
Right.
up. And also
It's
I
okay
learned
to
something.
own it's okay to
Yes.
own a failure, to be like,
Yes.
yeah, that did not go as I had
Planned.
hoped or planned or
Yes.
remotely how I wanted it to at all. And
Yeah.
like sometimes I've offended people or I've done things like that's
Sure.
a failure when I've
It
hurt somebody else. And
Yes. Yes.
but
Yeah.
adjusting, you figure it out,
Yeah.
and everybody does it.
Everybody
Everybody
does
does
it.
it.
Yeah,
So
that needs to be, I don't know, episode 22 or 23. I don't know. Whatever. Okay.
we're on episode 11 right now, so it'll be
Yeah.
in a bit.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, okay, so then speaking of that, like the ability to fail and adjust and just learning from that and being able to kind of move forward from that, what would you say is your communication superpower?
I would say my communication superpower is my ability to pivot. Like I can stop mid conversation and say, "Wait a second. I didn't mean to come across that way," or "I
Mm,
didn't mean, let me try that again." And so
hmm.
I would say that's my superpower, to be able to pivot.
Yeah, that is a superpower because not everyone, first of all, not everyone can do that. I think it's so easy to get stuck in where you are. And there are emotional reasons tied to that, all sorts of reasons tied to that. I would say that my superpower is the ability to listen. And I can hear things. That didn't sound right. Okay. I can hear things in a way that helps me to understand where a person is coming from. I really do feel like it's a superpower. Here's an example. Okay. So we're listening to a meeting. We were in a meeting earlier today, and Elizabeth was facing and part of the Zoom meeting. I was on the other side of the room and I could just hear it. I was working on some things on my laptop. But when people were speaking, I could hear what they were communicating in their voices and not the words, the emotion and the feeling and the history behind what it was that they were saying. That feels like a superpower for me. Sometimes people misinterpret it as maybe me not being engaged, and it's not necessarily that. It's just it really is it's a gift. It's a blessing and a gift that I've been given. I appreciate that. Yeah. So, Elizabeth, what is something that people might be surprised to learn about you?
That I'm an introvert. That is, I think, one of the most surprising things people like as they get to know me, because I
Are
can.
you though?
Okay, now let's go back to definitions. To
Yeah,
me,
let's go back to definition.
a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
definition of an extrovert is someone who is rejuvenated and
Yes.
energized by a group.
Yes.
And an introvert is someone who needs space and time to like re-energize after being in a group. I definitely fall in the introvert.
In the introvert. I I have always seen you as an extrovert, someone who wants to be with others. Okay, oh, you know what? Here's what I'm realizing. No, definitions are important. I'm realizing that I am comparing you to myself. And we're both introverts because neither one of us is energized by being around a lot of people.
Right.
You have the ability to be a little bit more outwardly expressive and energized than I am. And I am not a good, what I'm trying to say is I am not a good standard by which to measure. That's
This
what
would
I'm
be
trying to say.
interesting from people who listen to the podcast. And even when we've done
Oh,
speaking engagements on
yeah.
stage, I
Yeah.
feel like in those, like, I feel like on the podcast when I listen to it and speaking engagements, when we have meetings with people, I feel like you come across as more extroverted and outgoing than I do.
What?
I
That's
do. I feel
crazy.
that way. But when we are in public together,
Yeah.
I'm 100% the extrovert.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
the person that's going to talk to whomever.
Yeah.
And so this would be
That
really
is very
interesting to
interesting.
hear
Yeah.
from our audience listening
Yeah.
to us. Who do you think is more extroverted or introverted? This would be
Really
very
good.
interesting.
It would be interesting. Yeah, speaking of you in public, Ro, we went to we went to plunge. I don't know if y'all have ever been to plunge, but it's a cold plunge and a sauna, and you just go back and forth. It's a contrast therapy. You're going back and forth between the I go in regularly and this is my Zen moment. I'm quiet, I'm reflective. I usually don't engage in a conversation, mostly because you're in a sauna and I don't know, there might be six of you, there might be two of you. For me, it feels a little bit awkward to be talking to somebody I don't know while I'm sweating in this sauna. And yes, this girl, sorry, you're a woman. This woman had a conversation with everybody in the sauna, and it was so lovely and so great. And I even said afterwards, I'm so glad that I'm working with you because I'm not trying to have a conversation with anybody. But Elizabeth is just really great at initiating those conversations in public places. So it is really interesting. Please let us know. What do you think? Do you find us to be much more introverted or do you find us to be more extroverted? What does it sound like to you? That would be very interesting.
So what's something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Well, we've been friends since we were 18, and you didn't know that I can't stand the sight of blood.
That is
And
true.
if you were like, what is happening right now? And there was no blood involved.
No, there was no
Just
blood. I
talking
told
about it.
her I might have an allergic reaction. I was
Yes.
like, if I have an allergic reaction, give me some Benadryl.
And I was like, where am I supposed to get this Benadryl? What happens when you have an allergic reaction? What am I supposed to do for you? Do I take you to a hospital? Should I go borrow my friend's EpiPen? I am not good when it comes to medical emergencies. I freak out.
Which would surprise, I think anyone. It would surprise anyone because you are so composed all
Mm.
the time.
Don't talk about blood. Don't talk about guts. Don't talk about medical emergencies because I am useless. Absolutely useless. Yes. Ooh, I can't even think about it. So I'm going to move on.
Okay.
So, Elizabeth, who is a woman communicator you admire and why?
So there's a lot of people in my personal life that I would probably point to first.
Hmm.
Professionally or famous people that I would look to, I really admire everything Oprah Winfrey has done. Maybe not everything. I don't know everything she's ever done. I think that she has done so much for women of color, and really for the world as a whole. I think she's just done a lot. She's opened up a lot of communication,
Yeah.
conversations. She's I admire her. And then Jen Psaki, she was President Biden's first press
Hmm.
secretary.
Hmm.
And I honestly don't really know a lot about her. I just know she was a mom.
Yeah.
She this job like she not walked into this position, like she worked
Yeah.
her way into this position. But I remember watching her take on that position and just really admiring what she was doing. And
Yeah.
I like living in the DC area. There's just so much that people navigate. And I just admire her.
Yeah. She's great.
Yeah. What
Both of
about
those
you?
women are great. So I have two people. The first one is, and this second person just came to mind, but The first person is Michelle Obama, and the reason that she is so intriguing to me is she is she is very poised when she speaks. But if you look at her face, if you look in her eyes, there is an intensity in her eyes, and it's not an intensity like quote unquote whoa too much. It's just not intensity is not the word, focus.
Hmm.
When she speaks, she is focused, and you can see that in her face. But her body language is so open. She's always smiling. She's so vulnerable. She's so authentic. She's always sharing stories about her life, and that which makes her so relatable. So it's like this combination of this laser focus, but also just this genuineness that I really think is such an admirable quality. When I was teaching a human development class, I actually had my students watch an interview that she gave. I'm just gonna link it in the show notes later, but that was the first time that I really picked up on her sense of, it may be because it was just such an intimate interview, and I was showing it for a different purpose, but I really picked up on that. The second person that has really been intriguing to me as far as a communicator is actually Jasmine Crockett. She, first of all, she makes me laugh. She's hilarious. She's so quick-witted. That's what it is. She's very, she's so incredibly intelligent.
Rose, I don't know who this is.
Jasmine Crockett.
Now,
So
all of you that don't know me, this might
this is
surprise
not a
you.
surprise.
But if
Well,
you do know me, you know I like just don't know these things.
yeah. Well, and it's you're just not the kind of person who is, you're just not a, I don't know. You're not a
My
trendy person. You're
I
not a
was going to
trend.
say, if this is someone like my pop culture knowledge revolves around what I get on Peloton.
Yes.
Okay. Like
Okay.
that's my, like, since I started doing Peloton, I can participate in a lot more pop culture. But if those instructors aren't into whatever, I probably don't. That's just not part of my life. It's very, like, I don't suggest it. Like, you miss out on a
Yes.
lot of conversations and a lot of
Yes.
things.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but fill
I
us
will
in
fill
for
people
those
in.
of us that
So
are.
Jasmine Crockett is she is representative for Texas. I don't remember what district. I can't tell you because I
She's
don't.
a politician?
Yeah,
So
she's a
she's not
politician.
even pop culture. She's a politician.
No. Yeah.
I I'm more familiar with politicians than people in pop culture.
That's true.
I just
That's
got done
true.
saying I'm in DC.
Well, yeah, she's also, I mean, she's in Texas. Anyway, we digress. She is,
Oh, she's not.
she's just someone that I just admire the way that she speaks. Again, and maybe this is saying something more about me, but again, there's this focus, but there's a wit, there's a relatability, and there's a, she's just very, she's high energy, but not, yeah, I don't know. I'm very
But
attracted
not
to the way that
annoying.
she, no, and that's what, it's like I've got a message, but her delivery is just so, she's just smooth, man. She's just smooth. So I just really like her.
You need to
I
check
just,
her
yeah.
out.
You just need to just like her out. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
great.
All
She
right. So
is
before
great.
we wrap up today's episode, we do want to leave you with some practical tips that you can use right now. So, Rose, what's just one tip that you would give to a working woman who wants to improve a communication skill or something that she could just apply right now, today, super quick?
Super quick. So let's say that you have a hard conversation coming up. Maybe there's a power difference. This has actually taken place in our lives, both of our lives. We've been witness to this firsthand in the last couple of days, but there's a power difference between you and a manager or I don't know, someone else in your workplace, and you're getting ready to navigate a hard conversation. Go back to your values, right? Recognize and acknowledge that this is going to be difficult. Hard conversations are just difficult. Nobody's gonna die. Um,
You
it,
might feel like it.
you might feel like you're gonna die, but honestly, no one's gonna die. So just acknowledging that the conversation is gonna be hard and just accepting that. And going back to your values. What do you hope to accomplish? And how do you want to show up in a way that is congruent with who you are, who you want to be, and what your values are? So, yes, acknowledge the difficulty, show up from a values oriented perspective. That's what I would say. Yeah. What's your tip?
So my tip would be around speaking up in meetings. So being a part of a meeting, whether it's a team meeting or a one-on-one. So even if your heart's racing and you're unsure just about, like you're just feeling nervous about the meeting, I would say my tip to you would be to prepare yourself and go into that meeting with clarity. Know what your role is, know what you want to accomplish, and be open to, trying, failing, and adjusting, but have
Yeah.
clarity before you walk into that meeting. And so preparation is key for so many things, and it just
Yeah.
helps calm me down. So that would be my quick tip for just feeling better when you're in a meeting.
Yep. That just reminded me off topic, but as Snoop Dogg says, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Prepare. Listen, that's good advice. That is sound advice.
I'm just laughing because I do know who Snoop Dogg is.
Okay, yes. Well,
That's why I'm
gonna say
laughing.
Yes. That is some sound advice. Okay. Anyway, thank you so much for listening to us. This is literally how a normal conversation, typical conversation goes between the two of us. And you got a little snippet into that. I hope that this helps you feel a little bit more connected to us and also gave you something useful. Here's your homework. We'd love to hear from you. So just, connect with us on our Instagram and let us know what one communication challenge you have had to face at work has been recently.
And tell us if you think we're introverts or extroverts.
Yes, and tell us if you think we're introverts or extroverts. DM us at Communication Skills for Women. We would love to feature your story in a future episode. Basically, we would love to talk about you, sit here and talk about you, or talk with you. Subscribe and review. If you like this episode, hit that follow button and leave a review. It helps more working women find us. Stay tuned for the next episode. Next time, we're going to dive into a topic that so many of us struggle with. It's identifying our values, going back to this values-based perspective, identifying our values in 20 minutes.
And remember that communication is a skill. It's not a personality trait. You aren't just born able to do it. You can grow and develop your communication skills, and you really deserve to be heard. The world needs to hear your voice and your perspective, and you can do that as you feel more confident in your communication. And remember, speak clearly and listen bravely.
When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.